Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Science Thursday, we're gonna talk about pallet fork trucks. So basically these are two ecosystem, pallets and forks. So let's dive deep into it. So why exactly do we need it? Well, we became awesome at mass production. So basically we can produce things like there is no tomorrow. If somebody asks you, like, hey, I want A4 sheet paper, they're like, we got you back. You will be like, hey, I want 1 million pieces per day. They're like, bro, that's chump change. So we got the mass production part taken care of. How about shipping it? Let's say it's somewhere else. Let's say somewhere in Brazil, paper mill is making that puppy. So how the heck you gonna ship it? We got that. We got giant shipping container. It's so cheap. It's scary how cheap these puppies are. As in, like, per ton of material shipped from A to B. It's like genuinely shocking. If you ever wondered how the heck, we no longer have manufacturing ability locally, that's the reason for that. This is that cheap. So we got that part. However, consumption side, this is production side, making, shipping, we got it. But what about the consumption side? Even though factories would be consuming at very high rate, like materials and all that, customers generally do not consume that. For example, if you are buying A4 sheets, most likely you are the biggest you're gonna buy is something like this, like a 500 sheet. Oh, about it's 100 mg, so it's a bit heavy. So you're gonna buy something like that. Now here's the deal. One of that super easy. But what about a warehouse where you have to divide a giant container? A container could have like multiple pallets into that. Now that creates a very weird scenario where it becomes a hassle. Why it becomes a hassle? It's basically too small for trucks or cranes. Can you use those? Yes. It's like, why? It's like, using a jackhammer to crack an egg. It's pointless. And it's like, too big for human, because can a human do this? Yes. But if a human has to do this with a multiple big box and he has to do it all day, his bodies will suffer severely. So it creates a very awkward scenario where it's like something in above human power but below truck power. So what the heck we need? So this is the layer, the zone that we call that zone is warehouse zone, meaning from shipping to actual customer, there is a spot where you're no longer just shipping, okay, I'm giving you 10 containers, I'm giving you 10 box cars. No, I'm talking about something inside those. At that point in time, you need warehouse solutions. So that's the requirement. That's why we have pallet and fork. So this pallet and fork was designed with tandemness in mind. For example, pallet was created to put stuff on. What stuff? That's up to you. There are pallets that are used for ice cream. There are pallets who are used for paper. There are pallets who are used for fruits. There are pallets who are used for almost everything. So that's the whole point. Pallet is just a unit. Unfortunately, we humanity, even though we became very awesome when we standardized the shipping container, we have failed to do so with pallets. Pallets are not standardized. They're close enough where they do work, and that's why they have such a high margin of sloppiness. Whenever you see the forks are too thin, the gaps are too huge, they are trying to compensate, so to say. It's not as standardized across the planet as we wish, unfortunately, but it's still there and it's good enough, basically. Let's just put it that way. So it was designed that you're gonna have a plate, you're gonna put on it. Now here's the how the heck you're gonna move the plate. Plate will not have any wheels, so how will you move it? There comes the fork. So these two things were developed in tandem. So forks are hand that will allow you to carry it, and every fork was designed such a way that you can move it from multiple axes. Ideally, minimum is 2, ideally is 4, meaning if operator drops the crane, pulls his fork out, somebody from the other side can easily insert his fork, pull it up, back away. Awesome. Nowadays you can literally, because again we are no longer using a wood one as much as we used to, and slowly we are transitioning to basically plastic variants. Plastic variants are from day one, they are designed in such a way that they have 4-way entry. You can enter from front, back, and left and right. So they can even work on corners, and you have much higher degree of maneuverability. So that's super awesome, and lot of tool for different weight class. Even in this zone, so to say, basically it's too small for a giant truck or crane, but it's too big and heavy and cumbersome for a human. There are multiple zones. Now these zones have dedicated tools built for it, each tool fine-tuned for that. Like some tools are designed for carrying light loads but very fast, some are designed for like reaching high up, some are designed to carry some steady loads but very slow and methodic. So it's one of those things where even though it's one zone warehouse, we have way too many options inside it, and it's out of necessity. It's not just we are just going YOLO on it. We need it, that's why we have it. Now how can we operate these puppies? Well, you have generally 3 layers of power. Power number 1, manual, lightweight. Then you have battery, heavyweight. ICE engine if you want to. So what does this puppy offer? This idea of pallet and fork, what does it bring to the table? It brings something very interesting to it. It brings speed. Same person, same one human horsepower. Horsepower would be a bit much, like one HP, yeah, is human power. One human power would, you can get much faster work done. You will have higher safety, and you will also reduce injury on the human body, especially the skeleton and musculature systems. So that's like shut up, take money. Because again, even a corporate evil lord where it's like, I want maximize profit. The first rule of maximizing profit is thou shall not injure their own workers. So companies that are wise, they are smart, they will invest into these sort of equipment because it allows them to yield more profit. So that's the ecosystem of pallet and fork. Then we come to the basic layer, manual. Now, where the heck manual suits perfectly well? It suits anywhere where you do not have too much throughput or too much weight, but you still have enough where it justifies it. For example, if you have to do 5 times a day or 6 times a day rather than 15 times per hour, in those sort of scenario, this puppy makes perfect sense. So it's a very logical choice. It runs on a hydraulic pump that you power like this. Now be mindful, because it has such a large travel, you can lift very heavy loads here, easily 1 ton, easily. And some designs can go up to 3 tons, but it's generally not recommended. That's like for emergencies, or like you have multiple people handling it. The reason for that is these things are not designed as a vehicle. So they do not have braking systems equivalent to a car. So if you accelerate them on a smooth floor, you accelerate it, that's awesome. Its rolling resistance is very low, that's super awesome. But how the heck you gonna apply brakes? It does not have disc brakes. So fundamentally, the brake designs are super duper minimalistic or non-existent, meaning once you put inertia in there, if it's traveling fast enough, yeah, it's danger. That's why you generally do not like the idea of like putting as much tonnage as you can. Even if they can make it very powerful, very strong, they will not do so. You do not inherently want to make a scenario where it's like everybody has to be like on their edge or have to roll it very slowly, because again, if it gets out of control, it's very hard to do so. You have brakes and all that, but be mindful, it's not a car. It's not designed as a car. So it's always designed for mild duties. Now handle hydraulic pump, that's the reason. That's how you have see all those 2 tiny wheels. Those are the main pusher wheels. Those pusher wheels are generally retracted. That's why you can insert the fork. Once you have inserted the fork, then you deploy those puppy. And that's why it does require a smooth floor. Now this is a very critical area because of the wheels small size. It needs very well polished smooth floor, and be mindful, the concrete that are used there also has to be a very high caliber. The reason for that is you can be easily dumping 1 ton of weight on very small patch of land, like very small, like maybe even as small as like 1 tire car. So like it's a very serious thing. If you do not have reinforced floor, like proper floor, there is a very good chance you're gonna either chew up the tires or you're gonna chew up the floor itself. So fundamentally, it's something that requires very careful planning and no cost cutting on the floor. Like if you ever seen any ULA rockets factories and the floor is like holy damn smooth, the reason for that is this. So of course they use bigger variant of this, but the idea is the same. You want lower rolling resistance on tiny wheels, you have to make it smooth floor, as smooth as possible. That's the only reason these things work. They are not designed for outdoor use. Then what if you have to do more out of it? What if your throughput is higher and the load also, meaning you are exceeding 1 ton capacity generally? So you have option of ICE engine. Now they are awesome, but they come with 2 consequences, major consequences. Consequence number 1, noise. Now why noise is an issue? Well, you are in an enclosed space known as a warehouse, so sound will echo a lot. Now you could easily have 2 or 3 or maybe even 50, 60 of them working simultaneously. Yeah, everybody's gonna get deaf. In an enclosed space, the sound does not dissipate as quickly as possible, so it does create a very serious noise pollution hazard. And because of the awareness, because of the fact there are things moving around, you need your hearing to be working. You cannot have noise suppression. So for that reason, this is very dangerous. On top of that, it also has exhaust. For example, let's say you have a container ship brings your ice creams. I was shocked that it was done, but somehow it was done. Some reason it was done. So you had container, refrigerated container, it had ice creams in it. Now here's the deal. That ice cream, that refrigerated container will come to the warehouse, nearest warehouse. In that warehouse, how the heck you're gonna pull the basically pallets out of it? If you use an ice system, you are introducing exhaust gases into an edible. That's a big ass no-no. That's like nope. That's a big ass nope. And on top of that, in an enclosed space, that's a danger to humans. So no. So flat out, these 2 reasons generally eliminate any sort of combustion vehicle. You can have fuel cell if you want to, but ideally it does not make that much sense. So battery works here. However, ironically, lead acid battery is a huge mass. and huge weight helps it here, because these things are designed to deal with big daddy loads. It itself needs to be strong enough and have enough counterbalance to take care of it. If you are, especially if you are lifting it high up, in those sort of point you need mass. Thankfully lead acid is like, bro, I got you back. So lead acid battery is like perfectly made for this. The technology on this have not been changed because there was no reason to change it. It was like, dude, it works, it's awesome, just take it and go. So because weight has been acted as a counterweight. However, because modern warehouses are big, huge, large, and they're carrying more and more tonnage, so to say, so battery swappable system have been invented. If you watch very old videos of forklifts, they did not have this sort of system. What they had is basically, literally you had to have a roof crane, bring in there, then you pull the battery out, then you put a new one in. They were designed to be charged in the vehicle itself, and if you need it for some reason, then you're gonna do that crane hassle thing. This sort of modern design of lead acid battery is designed in such a way that they know for a fact that you're gonna swap it, meaning they are designed in such a way that each forklift could easily have, let's say, 4 or maybe even 5 battery per basically forklift. So they can use one, charge, because lead acid does takes time to charge, easily 3 to 4 hours, and that's assuming you are charging at a very high rate. Ideally you do not want to do so. So these do takes time. So that's why battery swapping is something that they had to rethink. So battery swapping is now the current norms that you're gonna get. Can you replace with the lead and all that? Yeah, lithium ion and all that. Generally not preferred, simply because lithium has fire hazard. This also has hydrogen hazard, but because of the amount of hydrogen is very little, and not to mention hydrogen diffuses very quickly. So it's inherently kind of safe. Lithium on the other hand, yeah, good luck with that. So many times people do not prefer to switch this, even if they can do it. So all the batteries that I'm showing you, they are not basically what you call ancient technology. They are new brand manufacture. And lead acid battery used here is what we call deep cycle batteries. So these puppy actually last more than 5 to 10 years. Like you can actually find forklifts that have 10-year-old battery and still going strong. Of course, assuming they have been maintained properly, but it can be done. Then we come to some custom solutions. There are some serious requirement is that you may not have polished floor. In those sort of point, you will have big ass wheel variants. These variants are designed for generally outdoor use or end effector use, meaning end effector would not be correct term. Basically, last mile solution, meaning you made a lathe machine. That's awesome, super awesome. Everybody happy to good to go. You are shipping it to someone. Okay, good to go. You in your warehouse you had awesome things, so you did it awesomely. How the person is supposed to get it out of the truck? In those sort of scenario, the small wheels becomes a hassle. Unless you have a completely paved, strong, robust driveway, it's a hassle to do so. In those sort of time, this sort of forklift becomes far more practical. And if you are talking about yard work or some sort of farm environment, this also makes sense. Be mindful, I did specify, folks are, pallets are carrying literally produce, as in like tomatoes and all that jazz. So how the heck you gonna carry it from the farm? You're not gonna have a like concrete floor in the farm. So this sort of thing actually makes sense. ICE options are generally preferred for those who have random uses, but they need a lot of oomph. Because batteries are awesome, they do require one consequence. They will only be awesome if you keep using them. Meaning if you are using them weekly, awesome. You shut them off and do not use them for like, let's say 5-6 months, yeah, they dead. So in those sort of scenarios, ICE engines are generally more preferred. Now, some solutions, some companies have switched to lithium ion, but again, is desirable or not desirable, that's up to you or to the customer. Some customers do love the fact that the batteries are much smaller and they give much longer run time. Others are like, dude, we still need that counter mass. So, and again, safety requirements of different places are different. So you may not see it everywhere. And it's a critical tool for what we classify as inventory management. For example, if you ever watched old Jeff Bezos interview, he was talking about when Amazon was just a bookshop, like Amazon equals bookshop. Back in that day, he gave an interview, like very early on interview, and his dream was, he was so poor at that time, yes, he was poor, that his dream was that someday he's gonna be able to afford basically forklift, so pallet unloading would be easier. He was manually unloading that, meaning his people, his group people, like they were manually, that was his dream back in that day. So now these things are like very ubiquitous. So inventory management matters here. If you designed racks basically too close to each other and the tools cannot just like, you just say, oh, tool is this big, we're gonna give 10%. No, you have to give enough space that person can do it in speed. Speed as in not like Tokyo drifting, but a speed as in like just efficiently do it. So inventory management system that takes that into account yields much better output, much better throughput. If you do not take that into account, you literally could have a choke point. You may not even know it. It may not even show up in the spreadsheet. It's like, oh, why our company is like not making as much profit as we thought. you have to literally nail down and sit down and figure out, okay, yeah, our inventory is the slow part. Amazon pours money like there is no tomorrow on their inventory management. Like the amount of money they pour is like scary, the amount of money. So there are solutions, like there are custom tools for custom jobs. And I would not be surprised if somebody shared a video of like somebody built a fork truck that works on rails. Like it's a normal truck, but they have a micro rail built into the system where it's like, it would make sense for some heavy loads specifically lead acid battery manufacturing. So this was my presentation on pallet and fork. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please hit the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free. And as always, thanks for watching.